Through personal stories, mindfulness practices, science, psychology, and wisdom traditions, these conversations are an invitation to slow down, listen deeply, and remember that we are never separate. We invite you to grow with us on this journey together through rekindling our connection with nature. Welcome to the Bonded Podcast. Welcome to the Bonded Podcast, Maíra. This is a really special moment for me, really full circle moment, because you were my professor at UF. I took a class, your class, Plants, Health, and Spirituality, my first semester, first year, and it definitely sent me on this trajectory, which now we're going to be hosting a retreat together. So it feels like going from this student to now being in this facilitator teacher role alongside you is really special, and really special because we're bringing people to connect with nature, to connect with themselves, which is everything that I want to be doing. So honored to be here with you today and be on this journey with you. And I know you have done so many different things and lived so many different lives. So I'd love for you to share with listeners how you're showing up in this moment, in this season in life, and anything you want to share about, the previous seasons of your life that feel important to name as part of how you're showing up today.
Hey, hi. Thank you so much for having me in this podcast, Lizzie and Patty. This really feels like a very deeply symbolic moment, and it really kind of shows how much we can impact someone's life from the moment I was your teacher to now co-creating something with you, and how that come on a full circle of happenings for across 10 years. So this is really an amazing moment for me too. This season of my life is the best season I've ever been, to be honest. I've never felt so much like my true self. And I don't think I really knew what that meant when I met you, when I was a teacher. I was finding my ground. I was thinking I was a collection of titles. And so my entire life, searching for those titles was part of who I was. Starting from very early age, growing up in the Brazilian Amazon, I became an activist. I was already working for nonprofits at the age of 13, and that just amplified over the years. I went to law school, then I came to the United States, got a master's in comparative law, started working as a lawyer in a really emblematic case in Brazil. The Belo Monte Dam was the third largest dam being built in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. And I was one of the lawyers helping taking that case to the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. And that was my first wake-up call. When I met the communities I was working with, I realized, I want to be here. I want to support them in a better way. And so it really drifted me from lawyer to activist. I remember I even told my boss at the moment, I can still work for you if you let me spend half of the year with the communities in the Amazon. And she's like, no, we need you in the office. I'm like, well, then I'm quitting. And she's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to be an activist. And she's like, you're a lawyer. And so, I kind of went from lawyer to activist, and that was my entire life for nearly 10 years. Really hardcore activism, working hands-on with local communities impacted by dams, mining in the Amazon. And at the end of that trajectory, I ended up in a PhD in University of Florida, where we met, for geography, but I was studying geographies of Indigenous resistance, which nobody could understand, not even my professors. I had to create my own classes from scratch and teach myself what I wanted to learn. So that was interesting. It was during that time, though, teaching the class to you and to a bunch of other students who I'm still connected with, that I realized something. I don't think I realized at that time, but I had a few students who called me, "Oh, you are my spiritual leader." And I was like, "No, I'm not." I am no spiritual leader to anyone. But that really, I think it was a deep thing that kept buzzing in my mind and brought to life a side of me that I had no idea existed. So as a side story to that, I grew up in an ayahuasca church, and I was introduced to ayahuasca at the age of 7. I was a spiritual person. I had a spiritual practice since I was very little. And I think I didn't realize that things that were so natural to me were so foreign and important to other people. And so, came a long way until the season that I'm now of really embodying the healer that I am, the shamanic healer that I am, and this spiritual leader that I never asked to be honest. But it just really, life unfolded in a way to make me remember and claim that to myself. It is the hardest thing I've ever done in life. It requires so much from me. When I say I'm in the best season of my life right now, I don't take this lightly. I'm in the best season because the level of awareness I have today, I didn't have 10 years ago. However, it is so much work. Everything that I say to you or to anybody else comes back at me in the blink of a second, testing me. Are you really embodying what you're preaching? And so it's a work that requires such a deep level of self-awareness every day of me. And it's really pushing my boundaries all the time. So this is the season.
Yeah, Maíra, so much of what you're saying, and even as I have had the pleasure of meeting you way back when you were Lizzie's teacher, and I continue to follow you, and your mother, and you've brought so much into our life and continue to inspire us. And I think about even language, so the word teacher versus, some of the other words that you used around being a spiritual, embodying it. And I think that so much of, even as a psychologist, that so much of my teaching is really coming from my presence, right? Of embodying a sense of being present, or embodying something, even, I'm not going to say it's simple, but it's deeply life-changing, is being able to love myself. So when I can be self-compassionate, when I am embodying that, how that is teaching other people, even when I'm not teaching, especially when I'm not teaching, right? And so the embodiment, what you're talking about, and I think same as a psychologist, going to work is the easy part, working with people, but the doing the work is also part, it's almost the most essential thing, is that we are doing that work. And I think that you were, part of this comes from, even I think of Lizzie being naturally connected to nature. Naturally, it's in your whole being. You didn't have to learn to be that. You are that. And so that makes both of you absolutely amazing teachers, because you're teaching from that place of deep connection.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you for that, Patty. And when I think about it, it's really, I took for granted the fact that for me, nature was never separate. But then I realized, in spending more time with other people, that what I took for granted was not natural for a lot of people. And so now I am I have that level of awareness of like how much of my personal life experience, I was lucky to grow up climbing trees and, swimming down in Amazon rivers, how much of that is so unique and important for other people to experience. And sometimes when they come to the Amazon with me, they're experiencing that for the first time in their lives. And so I tend to have a sense of awareness and awe with all that I lived, not taking it for granted anymore, but really like recognizing this was a unique life and I was lucky to have had that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it even makes me think about how much you intuitively knew it when you were working with communities, Indigenous communities, and you really let go of a career by literally saying, I need to be there. As much as I want to do this work, I also need to be here. And so that inner sort of sense of how much you needed to be connected to that. And I do think that even for people who are connected to nature, how they can get disconnected. Okay. And by the way, I think that, Lizzie, I don't know if I can speak on your behalf, but I think of Lizzie as saying nature is like my church. Okay. It is where
our church.
Yes. Where I go to tap into my spiritual self, where I feel connected to spirit. And so that it just, in hearing you describe that experience, again, that is spirituality, and you going back there and feeling connected and not wanting to leave that place, or at least leave it entirely, like a sense of needing to be connected.
Yeah. That is so true. And if you think of any religion, you can pray at home, you can do all of your religion practices from home, but at some point, whatever religion you're part of, you want to go to the temple that you go to. And for me, that temple is the rainforest, because one thing is, I can go outside every day, I can walk barefoot, I can hug a tree, I can feel that connection. But when I go to the rainforest, when I go to my temple and I'm there, the power and the magic of that place, that's priceless. And only people who have been there, probably with me, can understand what I'm saying, because you can go there with different people who don't have those eyes, who are not looking at nature the same way, and let it miss, not get the magic part. But if you go there with me, you're going to get the magic part, and you're going to come back and be like, wow, okay, this is something.
Well, the rainforest, I mean, we can look at it on all different levels, from just an ecosystem of looking at how the rainforest is all of nature, is all of creation, all in one ecosystem, and how that makes sense for you to feel at home there. So when you're in an environment like that is so full of life, right, that you would feel home there. And it makes me think of the grandmother tree, right, that we visited at the top of that mountain and hiked up there. And being that we're the Bonded podcast, that I almost think of like that experience of being like almost like back in the womb, right? Of kind of connecting, rebirthing, and how that visit back there offers that to people. They may not know it. And I think that your particular guidance, even from a nature perspective, but also from a deeply spiritual intention, and of course from the activist side of, whenever we disconnect, whether it's from family or humans or, the earth itself, how that really begins to deteriorate everything. Everything. We thrive by being connected and interconnected and living in harmony, right? Mm-hmm. So it just, I witnessed myself the power of being held and connected, like the universe, it's like, it's almost like a piece, like just experiencing it all at once. And by the way, not all loving and wonderful. It's kind of scary and buggy, like little things and all, but this sense of like embracing
That's part of it
all.
too.
Yeah, it was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, if we think about it, what you said, it is the greatest biodiversity place on Earth. And what I love about the Amazon is, well, you guys teach a lot about mindfulness. And one of the things that I love the most about that place is your nervous system can't really multitask there. You are completely removed from distractions and you're just in it. Being present there is very real. The entire environment draws you into it. And it is kind of being in a womb of Mother Earth. And that is powerful because what I sense when people, before they come and once they're leaving, is this really powerful sense of awe, and I'm in my body and I am who I am. Like, I don't need to be anything else. I just need to be, simply be. That is, I think, the greatest gift that the rainforest gives people.
I think especially in our modern society and especially in America, we have this need or pressure to perform, to be successful, and to, like you even experience, that collection of titles, to believe that we're good enough, to believe that we're worthy of love and connection. But that is false. And that is part of what I feel like I experience, and yes, everyone else too, of like kind of removing that need to be someone and to put on that mask to earn any love or anything. We can just actually let go of all that, be ourselves, be in our body just as it is, and feel that sisterhood that is with us on the boat.
Yes. And I think, Lizzie, just to wrap up this thought, one important thing to say here is that I think one of the biggest pieces of why we learn so much and we gain so much from the Amazon is what we gain from indigenous communities. Because the Amazon isn't this magical, empty forest some people picture. It is a forest filled with people living there. Some of them are indigenous, some of them are not indigenous, but a lot of traditional communities living in the Amazon, and really teaching that, they're not teaching us spirituality. They're just showing us another way of being human right now on Earth. Relationship instead of ownership, enough instead of more, reciprocity instead of extraction, belonging instead of domination. They don't see themselves as living on the land. They see themselves as belonging to the land. And that is very different than our modern society and what we do in modern society. So it really is perspective. Every time I go back, I gain perspective, new ways of being in awe with just regular day-to-day things, and not wanting to rush towards something, just slowing down and being more in my body.
Yeah, the stories, I love how much we would just spend like meal times and late nights just listening to stories. And I feel like the Amazon, through these communities, indigenous communities, have so much stories and to tell that bring that wisdom to life, but they're just kind of, sharing their own stories. Love that.
Yeah. Well, storytelling is a huge part of indigenous tradition. And if we think about it, it's a huge part from our tradition before we became this modern society that really isolated people. but we used to live in communities. We used to tell stories around the fire. We used to dance around the fire. So going to the Amazon, it is claiming that back, because we get to experience that with other communities. And what I love about this experiences that I create, it's Indigenous culture is not there as a decoration. It's a relationship, it's real partnership, it's long-term commitment, money returning to the communities, local guides, local economy being boosted, consent, mutual benefit. We aren't bringing tourism, we're helping sustain their sovereignty. And in exchange, we get to remember what it was like to really tell stories around the fire, dance, and just enjoy nature without wanting anything in return. Being present at that moment. Those are such gifts. Every time I do that, part of me becomes like sparks. There's something that sparks inside of my heart. And I also witness other people like you and Patty, because you guys have been with me to the rainforest last year, but everybody that I bring, I've seen how their eyes are glowing and they're like excited and getting to experience all those things. That is because you are remembering. You're remembering your own roots, your own ancestrals, your own story, and that is really the core of it.
So I want to acknowledge kind of this transition of your form of activism, because I think it's a really powerful story and even kind of relates to this this working mentality too that we can find in our modern culture. But you have a story in a moment in your journey of burnout with doing something that you were so passionate about, and now kind of bringing the activism in a new way. So if you want to share about that.
Yeah. Activism was, and you said it beautifully. I was absolutely in love with that work. I had so much passion. I was a hardcore kick-ass activist, one of those that can get murdered into the jungle, that you hear get killed into the jungle. And I did things that I need to write my freaking book already. I did things that I look back and I'm like, oh my God, my parents were probably terrified.
Yeah.
I had amazing, intense moments in the rainforest, but there are so many things I realized, especially at the end of that process. One, I did suffer from a syndrome where I thought I could save them. And I think every activist will go through a phase where he thinks, if I don't do this, nobody will. It's really carrying the weight of trying to save the world. And that's a lie. Nobody can save anybody. Nobody's going to save the world. What you can do is be a channel of light and love into the world and channel of the divine, but nothing else. You can't save anyone. And it's not about saving anything. And so having that spiritual understanding of everything that was happening really gave me perspective, but it took me time, because at first I was very engaged and I was living in constant urgency. My nervous system was completely activated. Outrage became my identity. I was mad and angry and outraged, and I did believe that change came through fighting. And I think that really my turning point was realizing one day that laws can protect forests, but only love creates protectors. People are not inspired by outrage. You don't engage people by telling them how shitty everything is and how we're all doomed. You engage people, and people need to feel inspired to be engaged. And so I felt through my years of activism that I was talking to the walls, because we were, there's not a lot of nonprofits around the world. Maybe people think there are, but there's not. There's not a lot of us fighting to protect something. And we're talking to a void. Most people don't care. And most people were not engaged with our language or campaigns. And I felt extremely tired at the end of the day because I worked 24/7 and at low pay and all of that because it's real. And then I started really deeply thinking, how can I be more effective? How can I be more effective? My first answer was teaching, and that's why I went into the PhD world. I was like, well, as a teacher, maybe I can inspire new, younger souls to do something about it. But it was during the time that I was a teacher that I realized, the thing that I love the most about the Amazon is because I love the Amazon. I want people to come here and cry watching this river flow free because it's beautiful. I want people to fall in love with this place. And that's when everything changed, because I keep bringing people to the rainforest. I'm just not bringing them to show them what's wrong. I'm bringing them to fall in love with it, to be in awe, to be excited. When you do that, people leave wanting to do something about it. They leave like inspired and thinking, oh my God, this place needs to keep existing. I want to bring my kids to swim in this river. Yeah. I want other people to experience how amazing this is. And so that didn't happen overnight. It was many years of thinking, gaining perspective, and really working in my heart to get out of the savior pattern and embrace the channel of the divine that we all can be.
Yeah, I feel I relate to that same kind of storyline as well, not as intensely an activist, but doing my own environmental activism in my own community and feeling like I needed to save the world and save the planet, to then realizing that no, we can inspire. And that is why I love how this shift is been part of your journey, and that I'm excited to bring people there as well to inspire them. So we've kind of talked about, how people come away from these experiences, that awe, that connection with their body, and then feeling that desire to even give back. And I know this is a big part of these experiences as well. Getting to connect with the Indigenous communities, hearing their stories, doing ceremonies with them. And I even wore my earrings today that we purchased from the Mundaraku, who are really so cool to hear what they do. It's just like, wow, what am I doing with my life? And Patty as well, wearing her crafts. But I feel like this is a big part of your work and your co-creation. And you already mentioned, it's not really like you're bringing people there to be tourists. And when they come with you, they're like, I feel like you just do such a beautiful way at bringing people in to this relationship. Like I never want to feel like I am that extractor tourist, and I don't want to be the white person kind of going in and being on vacation on their land and kind of taking advantage of them, or kind of that kind of stuff. And it was really special to see that they actually wanted to learn from us too. And they actually cared to connect with us too. And it wasn't just a one way, but they really wanted us there too. So could you speak to that?
Yeah. When I started in Samauma, this business to bring people to the rainforest, my main idea was, what was behind was I really want to support communities directly. Most organizations I worked for supported communities under an agenda. And a lot of times communities needed specific support with something that they needed, but that was not in the agenda of the nonprofit world. And so they would never get that funding, that money for what they actually needed, because it wasn't in the agenda. That really bothered me. my initial idea was, well, maybe I'll create a nonprofit and I will find a way to get them funds directly, funds that will not go through an agenda or through somebody else. Because money will jump from one place to the other, everybody gets a cut. By the time it gets to the community, they're getting less than 5% of the money circulating for protecting the rainforest and indigenous communities, just so you guys know. So if you want to donate money to a community, instead of going through a nonprofit, talk to me, please. There's so many communities needing support right now, and they don't get it because, well, they need an association, they need a structure, they need white people structure in order to get the funds, to access the funds, and then they need to report it, which is insanity. So my biggest goal is, how do I get money to support their own projects on their own terms? And so the way my reasoning went was, well, I can bring people who are possible funders, people who have a lot of money, to fall in love with this place, and then they can directly connect with communities and donate money directly. That was my initial idea. And the first two groups that I took, they were groups of, I took Hollywood artists, I took filmmakers, even, Burning Man, artistic director, activist. I took people that in my head could make a difference. Then the third year, it just happened that one of my students, Samantha, wanted to create something with me for a long time. We talked about it, and then we decided to do a retreat together. And it was really the first time that I opened up to take a regular group of women. They were not, Hollywood actors, super well-known or extremely wealthy. They were just regular women. And the impact I saw happening was way greater than I expected, even bigger than the impact of bringing people that were super wealthy, because they were so engaged and they purchased so many crafts everywhere they went. I mean, you can see them on the screen. And we witnessed, what I witnessed with the communities was, because I also pay them fairly, but the exchange I witnessed was so much bigger. And even those women committed later to help me fundraise for one of the causes for NATO, which is a shaman I work with, and who wants to build a medicine home. And we started fundraising for that. All of that to say, this reciprocity for me was the base of my work, is why I started this business anyways. So it really, and there's only one way to create that, so you guys can understand this. Not every community in the Amazon is open to receive people, and I had no intention of doing this with someone who wasn't open. It takes years of conversations in a community between themselves to make that decision themselves, to say, we don't want to leave our land and we want to get paid to show how we live, to show off. Some communities in the Amazon do that. They do want that exchange because it allows them not to have to search for a job outside of the community. It allows them to simply be there, show their culture, showcase their culture, and get people from outside to pay for it, which is fairly fair. Mm-hmm. Does it work for every community? No. Is it dangerous? Yes. This is why I don't take massive groups of people. I don't take 20, 30 people. I take groups of 8, 10, the most amount of people, 15. Why? Because I don't want to be a disturbance for their lands. I don't want to bring too much foreign ideas to their lands. I want this to be in a way that it is really helpful for them and it adds something back to the group. And so the whole reciprocity piece, the starting point needs to be, you need to know who wants what and who is doing what and which community is already open and how they will share that money, how will that money go along. That's an entire many years of conversation within the community to make those decisions. So when I decided to take people to the Tapajós at first, was already coming from years of relationship with the Munduruku, knowing that this is one of the things they decided collectively they wanted to do in order to bring wealth into the community. And so I never requested them anything outside of what they have to offer. It was always, what do you want to offer? And then taking people to experience that.
When you are really just like living presently with nature, with the other women, in community, you get in touch with your own intuition more. And that was a big theme and what people, I think, were experiencing and can take home with them. Do you feel like in your journey, because you've made these decisions, throughout your life, shifting, you haven't stayed in the same career and trajectory. Do you feel like your intuition has, how do you feel like that has been cultivated, and any part of the Amazon or nature or indigenous wisdom play a part in that?
Someone who came last year to the Amazon with me became a business partner for me, Camila, and she works with me now. And Camila loves structure. And her first question is, what's the business plan? What's this? What's that? I'm like, I have none of that. I'm led by intuition. I do things when I feel they're right. It's really hard for someone who needs a concrete plan. But my entire life, I actually worked with plans. I was a coach. I went to law school. I was one of the top students. I won an award for best dissertation on my PhD. How did I do all of that? With planning. I planned every step of my life. I had a plan for the plan for the plan. I had a yearly plan, a monthly plan, a weekly plan, a daily plan. It was crazy. Did it work? Yes, of course, it did work. But when I really started embodying what I was learning with Indigenous people, example, going into an Indigenous assembly with the Munduruku, sitting for no agenda, hours and hours and hours of meeting, 10, 12, 15, 20 hours of a meeting in a day, because everyone has the right to speak, including the children, and they would never end the meeting until everybody spoke and shared their peace of mind. There's no plan. The plan was, we're going to be here until we need to. There was no deadline for when this is ending. We're going to end when it's time to end. We're going to eat when we're hungry. There's no on the clock this, on the clock that. They simply do things when they need to. So they will tend to their needs when they need to. When I need to eat, I'll go eat. If I need to sit, I will sit. If we need to talk, we will talk. And I mean, I was working with them for many years, but one thing was working with them, the other was embodying that and bringing that into my life. It was only when I realized this hustle way of working and these massive plans, they weren't working for my feminine body. We're cyclical as women. We're not meant to be hustling. We're not meant to be on a 9-to-5 job. And I'm not saying you can't be happy doing that. A lot of women are happy doing that. But are they complete? I doubt. Because a part of you is always going to be longing for pause, for a moment to breathe, for respecting your body, respecting your pace. And respecting your body is really being present, fully in the now. Nobody's present. Nobody in our modern society, not even me, is present 24/7. We are, for once, all the time with a phone in our hands. We're working with the phone. If I'm working with the phone, I'm not present. I'm not watching the bird passing by. I'm not present sometimes with my friend sitting across of me because I'm on my phone, she's on her phone. And so really slowing down, getting rid of the plans, letting life take its own course, allowing intuition to really sink in has been a work of the past 3 years of my life, it has required every ounce of dedication from me, because surrendering was not a word in my vocabulary. I'm like, either you make it happen or nobody will, or it's not gonna happen, you know? And so being like, if it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. You know, having a retreat, whoever's meant to come will come. Working with that level of surrender and that level of awareness and just allowing my intuition to lead has been life-changing. It has been hard sometimes. And it has been the greatest embodiment of everything I learned with Indigenous communities so far.
Yeah, I think retreat is a very special thing, because what you described about like putting the phones down, that's part of it, but it's even bigger than that. That really stepping away, like not having work, and I feel like the Amazon, for many reasons, because it is very removed from my ordinary life. So I am able to almost shed all of those other roles and being in autopilot, even my thinking, and that sort of by dropping you into this natural environment that is so filled with people who are living more intuitively, offers really an opportunity, which doesn't mean that everyone just naturally falls into that. But I am a big believer. It's one of the things that I, as Lizzie knows about Sacred Treehouse, that everything we do is with intention of helping people to connect really with their deep, true self, that intuitive, that they know inside of them, that there is a sense of knowing. This isn't like some people are intuitive and some are not. It's like, no, everyone is. And I believe these retreats are opportunities for people to discover that about themselves, to discover that place within them that is truly spiritual. Some of my clients will be like, I'm not spiritual, and I don't know any of that woo-woo stuff. And, you know, I think of that nature is not woo-woo, okay? And so it's like the place that you can be taken to really see. For me, this particular retreat, because I go on retreat every year. I need to. It's part of like staying connected. There's always a deep longing to return back to that, because just everyday life pulls us away. Even though you might have practices that help you stay connected, there's nothing like going on retreat to really deeply get there. And I think that this particular retreat helped me to peel away these stories and these ways of being in the world that no longer served me. You know, they were limiting me, limiting beliefs, limiting just my whole sense of letting go and allowing myself to truly be fully present, particularly in nature, right? Because I had, for another podcast, right? I don't want to go into my story, but both of you were there. We went together. And so you guys know my story, but I'm interested if you guys could share, because that was one particular retreat, and now you guys have an upcoming one. I wish everyone would go and experience this. I know that you both share the same wish that everyone would travel with you, but only a small group can go on this upcoming trip. So I really like you guys to share, like, who is this trip for? Like, who are you calling out to come on this upcoming retreat?
Okay. Well, we only have, so let's start with, the amount of people. Because you said it's a small, it is only for 8 women, and at this point 7, I think. So it's really not so much about being exclusive, but it's about the depth and how much further you can go when you have smaller groups and safety and intimacy, where everyone feels truly seen and held. And so that's why we're doing just a small group. And then we're going to be navigating the most beautiful river you can ever meet in your life. The Tapajós is the 5th biggest watershed in the world. It's one of the rivers that flows and encounters the Amazon River. And it is the only river in Brazil that meets the Amazon that has no dams in it yet because of the Munduruku resistance. So I love the Tapajós for so many reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is when the first time I met the Tapajós, so in Brazil, when you work in the Amazon, people have a saying of, what is your river? They ask you, what is your river? And I grew up swimming in one river, in Araguaia River. And then I started working with the Xingu, and those were my rivers. I said, I have 2. Then I met the Tapajós, and I was like, oh my God, what is this place? Because it's transparent, warm water, pink dolphins. Some places in the Tapajós feel like you're swimming in the ocean because it's so large and there's waves and you can't even see land sometimes. And then there's white sand beaches out of nowhere with the forest as a backdrop. It's absolutely insane. They call it the Caribbean of the Amazon. So it is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and you're going to be navigating it in a really beautiful boat. There's no better way to spend your time in the rainforest and getting to know different places. And we're even going to meet a different river, which is the Arapiuns, another beautiful, beautiful place. And then this retreat, it was interesting because Lizzie and I had other plans for this year. We had already talked about doing a mindfulness retreat with the treehouse, and we had all of that aligned. And as we spoke and those plans started not falling into place and we started thinking, okay, what's next? I went into the rainforest for an ayahuasca journey. This year was the first time I did an ayahuasca journey, and while I was there, I just sat in that journey and I was like, girl, we need to bring witches to the rainforest. We need a wild witch retreat in the Amazon. And I know a lot of people have a bad connotation with the word witch, but girls, we are all witches. Yeah. And I came back from it and I was like, Lizzie, I was just feeling like, October 31st, we do like a wild women witchy retreat in the rainforest. Just like, I was thinking the same thing. And so this retreat was born, UNTAMED was born out of that feeling of like, let's claim our wild, powerful energy. Because let's face it, the Tapajós is a place where it allows for you to do that. And so really it's to support other women claiming that power back, claiming their most wild parts. I don't know about you, Patty, in your practice, but I'm around a lot of women these days who they are successful sometimes in their works. They already have the life they want. There's a part of them that is aching for something, they can't even name it. And a part of them feeling, something is missing. This is not it. There's part of me that's still not there. What it is that I'm missing? Girl, you're missing this. You're missing claiming your inner power, claiming this energy that was already always yours. But you kind of dismissed it because society don't want to see you in your full power. Well, I don't want to say society, but this patriarchy system we live in don't really like empowered, wild women claiming their voice and claiming their healing powers and claiming their space as witches that we are, doesn't really like this. I mean, they burned all the witches on the sticks. So I do feel like this is a retreat born from that hunger, because I have claimed those parts of myself and I want other women to experience that. I want other women to leave this retreat feeling, hell yeah, I know who I am. I know why I'm here. You can share, Lizzie, your peace of mind.
Yeah, when I think of a witch archetype, I think of like a woman or someone being in connection with nature and really all the elements of nature and using them to create the life, create things that they want in the world or they want to create, and casting spells, but also a witch is in tune with themselves and with nature. So that's how I really saw why the Amazon would be a great place for this, like bringing in this witch archetype, bringing in that connection with nature, connecting with the body, and seeing what concoctions we can create. But yeah, I think Maíra really shared of there does feel like a missing piece at times where we can't quite name why we don't feel our full aliveness. And for me, I really believe the disconnect with nature, disconnect from our body is that missing piece. And when we go on retreat, we can really bring that back to life. And also being around other witches, other sisters, being in community with women is so powerful. And that is often so healing for people because, yeah, we can have challenges perhaps in our childhood or growing up that we don't have great experiences with other women. There could be competitiveness between women, and at here, we really I love the idea of the Halloween too, of taking those masks off and really we're not wearing any costumes this Halloween. We're actually bringing up our true self and tuning into that version of ourself and letting that version of her be seen fully and witnessed. And that is it breaks you open and also puts you together all at the same time.
That's so true, Lizzie. I feel like wellness retreats are usually asking, how do I feel better? How can I make this person feel better? And UNTAMED is asking, who are you beneath the conditioning? You know, it's less about self-improvement, more about self-remembrance. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you are before the world told you who to be. And I think it really ties up to a recent research that I was looking at saying, you know, in the past, like many generations ago, we women used to live in communities, connected with other women, dancing around the fire, doing everything in community. And then all of that was replaced by someone who decided we were going to become property of one man and created marriage. So they could name, and this, the part of the research explains, marriage was created because before they couldn't tell who the father was for the children of that woman. And so in order to be able to name who was the inherited person and, you know, who is the father, so they can give the inheritance from one man to the other, they created marriage, and women became properties and replaced, you know, we were sold a lie to replace an entire web of women, an entire web of community by one man. I mean, it's even unfair. One man cannot replace a whole group of women. And so for women to thrive Really, if you see the research of married women and versus married men live longer, they're healthier, they're better, but married women are not. They're not happier and healthier and living longer. They're exhausted. And the reason why they're exhausted is because they need other women to thrive. They don't need just a man by their side. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to marriage. I'm married, I have a beautiful man, I have a family, but I cannot survive without my soul sisters. No women actually can. You know, the fact that we thought that replacing a whole web, a whole community by one person in single homes, it's insane in the first place. And that's why women are completely overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted, and not knowing how to change this. I mean, girl, whatever you are in the world, create a web of sisters around you. You need girlfriends. You need friends to be really sustain this, system with you. Otherwise, life is never going to be super easy and breezy beautiful, because that's the missing link. And that's one of the most powerful things we create on those retreats, is that we do create a soul sister container that stays. Because you girls know, the girls that went with us last year, I mean, we're still connected. And I cannot wait to meet all of them again. Because it is the power of like having true sisters around you. It is beautiful. It is life-changing.
Yeah, and to bring in that nature to wrap it up is, in an ecosystem, we need all these different elements. We need that diversity. We need all those aspects to create this thriving ecosystem. And that's what we also need in our human relationships as well, building those ecosystems.
I wish I could come. I'm going to miss this one. Just talking about the retreat brings up so many wonderful memories, and particularly at the Tapajós River, like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to go back there. I will go back there. So I hope people will reach out to you guys if they hear this, or share it with someone. My one thing I guess I want to end with is, again, because this is the Bonded podcast, right? And so, I do believe, as we touched now on this sort of even separation of women being separated from one another. And it happened in history. This is sort of what led to it. And there's even things today that continue to keep women almost like separated or pitted against each other, and not in this safe, loving connection. But you cannot, once you go on retreat and you experience the sense of sisterhood or connection with other women, there is really a part of you that wakes up. And this is not just in you. This is literally our ancestral inheritance of, we were designed to be connected. Okay. And we have to find ways to do this in our everyday life. Right. And I do want to say, because you guys use the word witchy a lot, and that witch archetype, some listeners won't know, have no idea what that is and what you're talking about. And so I think it's important to just recognize, again, this is what you're speaking to, is really this deep sort of intuitive, creative, healing, and embodied, wise, like the wisest of wise part that lives in all of us. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's really this opening and this invitation to come and let go of all that crap, to allow yourself to be untamed, to realize those aspects of yourself that may not have yet been discovered at all. I honor both of you for doing this work. and the lucky 8 people. I can't wait to hear stories upon your return. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Patty. And, I feel like if I were to say anything else, I'd say I really hope people remember that nature isn't somewhere you go. It's something you belong to. And so really at the end of the day, the Amazon doesn't change who you are. It simply removes everything you're not. And that's what I love the most about it. And this really idea that people can just come back being fully themselves.
Beautiful. That is our invitation. And thank you, Maíra, for your time, and excited for what's to come.
I'm super excited too. And if people want to find me, work with me, participate in one of the ceremonies that I hold many different types of ceremonies. They can go to either my Instagram, and I don't know if you guys can put the handle somewhere in the description, or my business Instagram in San Mauma. It's all about the retreats in the Amazon rainforest. And then my personal page is all about mostly my work with women and ceremonies, etc.
Beautiful. We will definitely link that all below.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love you, girls, and I cannot wait to be in the rainforest with you, Lizzie.
Yes, so soon.
Beijos.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If it spoke to you, it'll probably speak to someone you love too. Share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star review to help spread the message it's never too late to heal.